It started with a flyer slipped under Daniel's door. Black paper with glossy crimson text. Doom. A night to die for. Underground location. Berlin. Midnight. Daniel stared at it, heart racing. He had just moved to Berlin. The city pulsed with life. The nightlife was intoxicating. But he craved something more, something raw. The flyer had no address, just a phone number. He typed a message, fingers trembling. "Where is it?" The reply came fast. "Abandoned U-Bahn station, Unterwelt. Come alone." Daniel felt a thrill. He wanted to dive into the unknown. The night was cold and damp. Daniel followed the instructions down the graffiti-streaked steps. The air was stale. It vibrated with a low bass line that felt alive. The station was dark. Dim, red lights flickered along the cracked walls. They cast an eerie glow. Shadows danced around him. The crowd was unlike anything Daniel had seen. Black leather, silver piercing, faces lost in the beat. Their eyes were glassy, vacant. They weren't watching the DJ. They seemed to stare into a void. Daniel felt a chill creep up his spine. The DJ booth was surrounded by rusted iron and bone, skulls mounted like trophies. The DJ was gaunt, his eyes dark like oil. His fingers moved over the decks with unnatural speed. The music was hypnotic. It thumped relentlessly. Whispers curled around the beats like chants from a forgotten ritual. Time slipped away. Hours blended together. Daniel lost himself in the rhythm. The music crawled under his skin. It prickled his nerves. He felt alive. But then, screams pierced the air. At first, they were soft, part of the music. But they grew louder, desperate. Daniel turned. A girl was flailing. Her arms moved wildly. Her eyes were wide, unseeing. She convulsed as if something unseen controlled her. Then she collapsed, lifeless. The crowd barely reacted. They danced around her. She was just debris, nothing more. Panic clawed at Daniel's chest. He needed to escape, but the music held him captive. It fogged his mind. His muscles felt heavy. He stumbled toward the exit. The passage seemed to stretch endlessly. The walls shifted, alive. The red lights flickered. In the darkness, he saw figures, tall and skeletal. Their eyes were hollow. Their mouths stretched into screams. Finally, he reached the stairwell. Cold air hit him like knives. He gasped, lungs burning. But even above ground, the music lingered. It echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder. Days passed. Daniel couldn't shake it. The music followed him. He heard it in the hum of the city, in the whir of the subway, even in his own heartbeat. The visions came next. Faces twisted in pain, eyes filled with terror. They danced in endless torment. He tried to find others from the rave. Most were dead. Overdoses, accidents, suicides. The few alive were broken, hollowed-out shells of their former selves. Daniel felt a growing dread. He was losing his grip. Desperate, he returned to the U-Bahn entrance, but it was sealed off. A wall of concrete stood where the entrance had been. It was as if it never existed. But the music persisted. It called to him, dragging him closer to madness. He wandered the city, searching for answers. Each night, the music echoed in his ears. It was a siren song. He met a woman who had been at the rave. Her eyes were wild, haunted. She spoke in whispers. "You can't escape it. It's inside you now." Her words chilled him. He felt the truth in them. It was too late. The music had seeped into his soul. It twisted his thoughts. He saw shadows lurking in every corner. The faces from the rave haunted him. They danced in his mind, forever trapped. One night, he stood on a bridge. The water below was dark and still. He thought of jumping to escape the torment, but the music pulsed in his veins. It held him back. He couldn't let go. Instead, he turned back to the city. The streets were alive, but they felt empty. He wandered aimlessly. The music grew louder, a relentless thrum. It pulled him toward the darkness. He found himself standing in front of a different club. The neon lights flickered. He felt drawn to it. He stepped inside. The atmosphere was thick. Bodies moved in a trance. But this was different. The DJ was different. He climbed to the front. The DJ was a woman, her face hidden in shadows. She was spinning records, but the music was darker. It wrapped around him like a shroud. He felt the weight of it. It pressed down on him. The crowd was wild. They danced like they were possessed. Daniel felt a surge of energy. He joined them. He lost himself in the beat. But then he saw her again. The girl from the rave. She was there, dancing among the shadows. Her eyes were empty. Panic surged anew. He stumbled back. The music swelled. It became a cacophony of screams and laughter. The crowd swirled around him. He felt trapped. He turned to run, but the exit was gone. The walls closed in. The shadows grew darker. Figures emerged, tall and skeletal. They reached for him with bony fingers. The music thumped louder. It was a heartbeat, a pulse of pure terror. Daniel screamed. He ran, but there was nowhere to go. The shadows surrounded him. The music became a roar. It swallowed him whole. He felt himself fading, lost in the darkness. The last thing he heard was the faint, rhythmic thump of bass. It called to him, beckoning him back to the abyss. In that moment, he understood. The rave was never just a party. It was a trap, and he was its newest victim.